They're here! They're here! Tears are here! Yep, the most dreaded and feared archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh! Has finally arrived in Master Duel. They were one of the best decks ever released in a real-life card game and have since been hit to hell and back on the ban lists. They're one of the most beloved decks in the game and one of the most hated. But what about Master Duel? There have been quite a number of hits from the main cards themselves, the cards that made them overpowered, and even a hand trap that was used in tandem with them. Are they really that powerful in Master Duel? I mean, I don't know if they're anywhere near the level that you aren't burning a word of this, are you? Of course they're tier 0 already! All the hype you've heard for Tearlaments are true. They are one of, if not the best deck ever released for Yu-Gi-Oh! One of the most impressive, versatile decks to ever hit this game. But is their presence and them being particularly strong necessarily good for Master Duel? Well, that's where it gets interesting. This video will be divided into two halves. The first half will be a quick introduction to Tier, while the second half will be talking about their impact and potential future. But enough talk, let's begin. So to quickly introduce Tearlaments, they're dark and water monsters all about milling with effects that either send Tearlament cards to the grave or mill cards from the top of your deck. The Dark Tearlaments cards also have effects that trigger upon milling or being sent to the graveyard by a card effect, where they can fusion summon a monster using the card that triggered, as well as something on the field, graveyard, or hand by shuffling them back into the deck. So, along with Tearlaments fusion monsters, you can also use them with a wide variety of other monsters, provided they meet the requirements. The possibilities are endless, provided you don't pick yourself out. Not like that's possible though, thanks to these Shizu cards. These Shizu cards are a series of Earth Fairy monsters which can be divided into two categories: millers and shufflers. Yugioh and Kelbeck, when milled or discarded from the hand, mill 5 cards from both players' decks, while Keldo and Medora from the hand or graveyard can banish themselves to shuffle 3 cards from either player's graveyard back to the deck. Oh, and both types of cards get extra abilities if Exchange of the Spirit is in the graveyard, as does their excellent trap, Gravekeeper's Trap, which can not only search them, but also prevent your opponent from activating grave effects. So, to put things in perspective, let's say you normal summon Merly, you mill 3 cards, and one of them was a Yugioh. A Yugioh would mill 5 more, and that's a total of 8 cards sent. And again, both archetypes have all sorts of effects that trigger in the graveyard, or that can activate from the graveyard, such as more milling or fusions, and on top of that, Fairy Tale Snow is still legal, so you can constantly— do you see where I'm getting at? This deck is nothing but gas, gas, gas. Just press the button and bam, things start happening. Oh, and real quick, all of the tier fusions are awesome too. With Rule Kalos being a great special summon negator, Kaleido Heart shuffling a card back to the deck from the field when it's summoned, or an aqua monster of yours is sent to the graveyard or shuffled, and Kit Kalos acting as a searcher, a way of special summoning a Tearlament, and a 5 miller. Man, Kit Kalos is so powerful for this deck, just does so much. And wait, Konami-senpai, what are you doing with that hammer? And it doesn't end there. Tiers also have a variety of great spell and trap support. From negates to disruption, more searchers, back row removal, searchable back row removal. Y'all have no excuse now. And those spells and traps also have additional effects when milled. The ride doesn't end. Now there is a lot more that goes into Tiers. Master Duel Meta has a great guide that I'll post in the description. I just wanted to cover the very basics. So real quick, here's 5 quick tips for playing Tiers. Don't mill with Yugioh and Kelbeck right away if you're going first. You don't know what your opponent has. Try to get Medora or Keldo out first on the field or graveyard to stop your opponent's Tiers or Shufflers if they get milled.
It's still good!
Don't let people tell you otherwise. Maxi, Ash, Called By, and Crossout are still good, even in Mirror. Ash can stop milling, extra draws are still nice, and stopping graveyard effects is more important than ever. Tiers are not activated by being discarded or being sent to the grave for cost. So be aware of that if you're using something like Danger Tearlaments. The Shizu Millers are triggered though. When destroying Tearlament cards on the field, be very careful, as that can trigger their effects. Try to use cards like Abyss Dweller to prevent their effects from being activated, or shuffle them back into the deck with Kaleido Heart. And finally, do not, I repeat, do not run 60 card Tearlaments. You want to consistently mill the tier cards, and adding more cards means less of a chance of getting that. But what about that grass looks greener? What about that grass? This deck is expensive enough as is, thank you. Why do you need a redundant card to go with it? Okay, so let's talk about Tiers' impact, because, let's face it, it's impossible to ignore. Tiers are accused by a significant amount of people as, and I quote, ruining the game. And in many respects, I get where they're coming from. And in many ways, I disagree. Let's look at the benefits of Tiers' impact and debunk some of the naysayers. There are people who've said tiers have hurt the player count for Master Duel. This is demonstrably incorrect. In fact, tiers directly contributed to the biggest boost in players this year, second only to the first anniversary of Master Duel. I actually encountered quite a few people who've expressed joy at trying out the new format or getting to play tiers again after they first got the banhammer. Plus, compared to other tier 1 decks or even tier 0, the mirror match for tiers is legit an incredible experience. Some of the absolute best gameplay I've ever experienced. It's the most I've been playing into Master Duel as of late, much to my sleep schedule's pain. Now then, let's not sugarcoat tiers. Let's talk about the negatives of tiers because the sweaty mods on Reddit that I've already drawn as soyjacks actually do raise some good points. Tiers dominance has caused the biggest shift in the meta ever in Master Duel. In the past, a new meta might have caused certain hand traps to see usage or not be as utilized, such as Token Collector during Halkidon or people dropping Nibiru in Sprite. But this goes beyond that and has caused a complete shift in the type of decks people are using. While sprites still remain as dominant as ever, now Exosister has received a huge boost in players as a way to counter tier. People are soldiering on with Fluunderies despite the recent hits, and even some stun decks have seen some new play as of late. Mind you, not as much as the Synchrofest, but still noteworthy. And certain hand traps like DD Crow or floodgates like Shadow Imprisoning Mirror are being more utilized. Heck, certain staples like Infinite Imperm, Dark Rule and No More, or even Max C don't hit as much against tiers. So yeah, there's been quite a shift. But that being said, it's not like rogue decks or decks outside of the ones I mentioned are useless. In fact, I encountered quite a few, and even with a deck like Tearlaments on my climb to Diamond 1, the right plays were still able to get the better of me. With Master Duel and how it encourages you to try out different decks, I doubt it'll ever be that people only go for one type of deck. It's just that now the types of decks you have to build or what you put into are vastly different from the ones you built for the past few months. But on the other hand, yeah, as someone who tries to encourage deck type diversity, it's a tough question. So what do you think? How do you feel about tiers? Do you love them or do you hate them? Let me know in the comments and please subscribe. And how long do you think Kit Kalos has before she's banned? I'm voting until the next Duelist Cup.